The waiter placed the glass in front of me and asked if I'd like anything else. I said, "Just time, if you have any." He smiled politely and walked off. I wrapped both hands around the base of the glass just to keep them from shaking. 10 minutes had passed since I sat down, but it felt like a month. The velvet armchairs, the low jazz, the clink of cutlery from the corner table, the scent of lavender oil mixed with overpriced coffee beans. It was all exactly how she described it, every tiny, stupid luxurious detail right down to the crystal sugar bowl. She once called it our future escape, except I wasn't invited this time. And yet here I was, waiting in a hotel lounge I wasn't supposed to know about, in a city I wasn't supposed to be in a room I wasn't supposed to exist. She said she had an overnight shift. She said the hospital was short-staffed. She said not to worry if she didn't text because the Wi-Fi was garbage in the ICU wing. She said it all like she meant it, like I was an idiot. And I was, but not anymore. The doorman had confirmed everything when I slipped him a 20. "Yes, sir," he said. "She arrived about an hour ago." Ms. Dyer checked in with a guest. Tall guy, gray blazer, no luggage. I thanked him like I'd asked for the weather. Inside, I was splitting apart like cheap drywall in a flooded basement. So I walked in. I chose the lounge because it was elegant, slow, designed for people who didn't need to rush. She wouldn't expect me there. That's what I wanted, the moment of impact. The truth delivered like a glass shattering on marble. I took a sip. Bitter. Burnt. Perfect. And then the elevator pinged. They stepped out. He had his hand on the small of her back. Her laugh was soft, confident, like someone who'd already forgotten the person she used to cry to. She didn't see me yet. She was scanning the room for a table. I sat still, didn't blink, didn't twitch. The moment her eyes landed on me, it was like watching a high-voltage line snap midair. Her legs stopped moving. Her hand, still looped through his arm, slowly dropped. She looked like someone had pressed pause on her entire body, only her pupils were still working, darting over my face like they were searching for a trick. Or mercy. He noticed. Whispered something to her. She didn't answer. I raised my glass. "Try the coffee," I said. "It's great for liars." And then, slowly, I stood up because there was so much more to say. But not here. Not yet. She didn't speak. Not at first. Not even when I stepped closer and pulled the empty chair out beside me, letting it scrape slowly across the polished floor like a warning bell. Her fingers tightened into the folds of her coat. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. He was still looking at me like I'd just interrupted a dinner reservation, his expression somewhere between confused and annoyed. I didn't sit. I just leaned in and looked at her. "Lana," I said, "you forgot to text. ICU wing with no Wi-Fi, right?" Her eyes blinked, once. Slowly. Like she had to remind herself how to function. The man stepped in, standing half between us. He was younger than me. Smoother. Probably one of those types who calls everyone chief and makes 30-year-olds feel outdated. He raised a hand slightly, defensive but composed. "Sorry, can I help you with something?" I tilted my head. "You must be the conference." He frowned. "I'm sorry." She said she was attending a hospital conference. "You're the keynote, I'm guessing." Lana let out a sharp breath, like the air in her lungs had just turned to ice. "Clay, not here." I laughed. Just once. Not bitter, not loud, just a short exhale of disbelief. "Why not? It's the perfect place. Quiet. Classy. 5-star drama." He looked at her. "You didn't say you were married." And that was the first crack. Her lips trembled as she looked between us. She wasn't wearing her ring. I hadn't noticed that until just now. Not on her finger, not on a chain. Nothing. She looked so different in this light, not just her hair or her makeup, but her entire energy. Like she'd stepped out of her old skin and put on a brand new one without bothering to bury the first. I picked up my phone from the table and held it up. "I recorded your check-in." The doorman was chatty. "Please, don't do this," she whispered. "Don't what?" I said, my voice rising despite everything I promised myself. "Don't ask why my wife is here with another man at a hotel I wasn't supposed to know about? Or don't mention the part where you lied about working the night shift for 3 days straight." The man turned fully toward her now. "You lied about your name." Lana covered her mouth, like she could somehow push the whole thing back down her throat. "Can we go somewhere else to talk?" I ignored her and looked at the guy. "Tell me, did she also say she had a cat named Marvin? That her favorite film is Casablanca? That she's allergic to shellfish?" He blinked. "No, she said she was divorced. No pets. We went out for oysters last week." My chest actually hurt when he said that. Not because of the oysters, but because I was the one who used to bring her Benadryl in the middle of the night when she got highs from cross-contamination. I remembered holding her hand on the bathroom floor while she shook and said, "I'm so lucky you're here." Now she was eating oysters in hotel lounges with this polished stranger like none of that ever happened. I took a deep breath. I'm not here to make a scene. I just wanted you to see me. To see that I wasn't some invisible placeholder. That I existed. Lana finally broke. "Please, Clay, can we just talk outside?" "I did all the talking for years," I said. "You just edited the story." He stepped forward. "Look, man, I didn't know. I'm backing off." I nodded. "Good." He turned and left. Just like that. No fight. No drama. Just walked out like a man leaving a meeting that turned out to be in the wrong room. Lana stood there, still frozen, still staring, as if she didn't recognize who I was anymore, or maybe she just realized I wasn't the one who needed to explain. "You know what hurts the most?" I said, slowly backing away from the table. "Not the lie. Not the affair. Not even the fact that you were going to spend the weekend here and come back with the same old, missed you smile. What hurts the most is that you probably would have gotten away with it." She didn't say a word. She didn't cry. She just stood there. So I left. I didn't look back. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I didn't go home. Not right away. Instead, I drove aimlessly through the cold Boston streets, listening to the low hum of the car engine and the occasional tap of my thumb against the steering wheel. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even call anyone. That scared me the most, how numb everything felt. Like the inside of my chest had been scraped clean and left hollow, echoing back every thought I tried to silence. Eventually, I ended up in the parking lot of a gas station off I-93. I sat there for over an hour, watching strangers come and go, filling their tanks and buying chips, living their perfectly uneventful lives. At some point, I realized I still had her weekend itinerary folded in my coat pocket, the one she so casually left on the kitchen table like a prop in a high school play. I opened it and stared at the neat rows of fake events, printed out on official hospital letterhead. She had even written "Don't wait up, love," in cursive at the bottom. I had stared at that heart for 5 minutes the night before, thinking it meant love. Now it looked more like mockery. Around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. Once. Then again. Then 6 more times. "Lana, where are you? Can we please talk? I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Please just answer. I'm so sorry, Clay. Please, I'm scared. Just come back to the hotel. I don't know what to do." I read them in silence. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I didn't reply. She was scared? She didn't know what to do? The sheer audacity made my jaw clench. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and started the car. No, I wasn't going back to the hotel, but I was going to do something. I drove back home overnight, the roads blurring into a gray ribbon lit by red taillights and the occasional blinding sweep of highway signs. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the sky was beginning to brighten with that pale, indifferent blue that only early mornings have, the kind that never promises anything. I unlocked the door as quietly as I could. The house felt untouched. Her coat still hanging where it always did, her scarf draped lazily over the banister, the scent of her shampoo lingering in the hallway. It made my stomach turn. I went into the bedroom and opened the drawer on her side of the bed. It took me less than 30 seconds to find the envelope. Cash. A lot of it. Wrapped in a rubber band, labeled "New Chapter Dizzy" in her handwriting. Underneath it, tucked beneath old birthday cards and receipts, was a travel agency brochure with a circled destination: Lisbon. Departure in 3 weeks. A date that matched one of my future business trips. She was going to vanish. Take off while I was in Portland installing a pediatric system, like she'd never existed in the first place. I don't even remember sitting down, but when I looked up, I was on the floor, back against the bed frame, staring at the sunrise through half-closed blinds. So that's what it had been. This wasn't just a fling. This was a replacement plan. I wasn't even being cheated on. I was being phased out like outdated software. Quietly. Cleanly. She wasn't going to scream or argue or throw dishes. She was going to disappear. But now she knew that I knew. And she didn't have time to erase the evidence. By the time she came back from Boston, she would find a different version of me. One that had read her lies. One that had copied everything: text messages, receipts, the itinerary, the photos I took at the hotel. One that wasn't going to scream or beg or cry. One that was going to make sure she never saw it coming. She wanted clean. She was about to get surgical. The next 48 hours felt like a war with myself. One part of me wanted to disappear, just vanish like I never existed, let her come home to a hollow house and the loud echo of her own lies. But the other part of me, the one that had been dismissed, lied to, and rewritten like some disposable chapter in her new narrative, that part was wide awake. That part wanted her to look at the truth and choke on it. Not through violence, not through rage, but with facts. With clarity. With everything she thought she had under control unraveling in real time. So, I got to work. I opened a new email account. I created a Google Drive folder. I uploaded everything, photos, timestamps, the audio clip from the hotel lobby. Yes, I'd recorded it. Paranoia finally paid off. The booking confirmations under her maiden name, a screen recording of her texts. I compiled it all into a timeline. I even titled it, The Weekend I Didn't Matter. Then, I made copies of the Lisbon flight reservation and the envelope of cash and scanned the travel agency pamphlet. I wasn't looking to destroy her. I was looking to expose her. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done the way I had to feel it in the silence of our bedroom, and the ache behind my knees from sitting on the floor too long, and the pause between each heartbeat when I tried to imagine life after her. And I knew when she'd return. Sunday evening. Her flight back from Boston, which she claimed was part of the conference retreat, landed at 5:40 p.m. So I waited. I sat on the couch, perfectly still, the house unnervingly clean. I'd folded laundry, straightened up the coffee table, even fluffed the throw pillows. It looked like a home. It didn't feel like one. At 6:12, the lock clicked. I didn't turn my head. I heard her sigh as she walked in. Her rolling suitcase hit the floor. Heels clacked against hardwood. She paused. "Clay," she called out, like it was any normal day. I stayed silent. She walked in and froze the moment she saw me sitting there. My laptop was open on the coffee table. Her eyes darted to the screen. The Google Drive folder was open. The audio file was paused at the 0:18 mark, right after I'd said, "Try the coffee. It's great for liars." She blinked once. Then again. "WH, what is this?" she asked. I didn't answer. I just gestured toward the chair across from me. She hesitated, then sat, slowly, like the floor might drop out beneath her at any second. "I thought you were in Portland." "I was supposed to be. Until your plans changed mine." She shifted in her seat. "Clay, please don't do this." Spare me," I said quietly. "I know everything. I know about the hotel, the guy in the gray blazer, the oysters, the fake conference, the Lisbon escape plan, the envelope labeled New Chapter. I know everything." Tears welled instantly. She reached for my hand, but I flinched. "Don't," I whispered. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said, already beginning the performance I knew she'd been rehearsing. "How far was it supposed to go? Just enough for you to have fun? Then what? Come back, sleep in my bed, kiss me like I'm not an idiot, and sneak off during my next trip?" She shook her head violently. "No, it was never like that." I opened the second tab on the browser. Her fake itinerary. She stared at it like it was a knife. "Lana," I said, my voice soft, almost apologetic, "you planned to leave me." She didn't deny it. That silence confirmed everything. "I don't know who you are," I continued. "I used to think I did, but this version of you, the one who lies so cleanly, so quietly, I never saw her coming." Her voice broke. I was scared. "I didn't know how to tell you I wasn't happy. And yet you were happy enough to play house while building an exit." "I just wanted something different," she whispered. "No," I said, leaning forward. "You wanted someone different. And now you've got him." She looked up. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not going to fight you," I replied. "You don't have to hide anymore. I'm giving you what you were too cowardly to ask for." Her eyes filled with panic. "Wait. Clay. No, I didn't mean." "You did. You just never expected to get caught." I closed the laptop. Stood up. She stood too. "Please, just let me explain. Let me fix this. You can't fix what you spent months breaking." She followed me down the hallway. "Where are you going?" "To a place where I can breathe." I opened the door. And before I stepped outside, I looked back once, not for her, but for closure. "I was never the one who left," I said. "You just walked away first. You just took longer to admit it." Then I shut the door behind me. Not loud. Not angry. Just final. I didn't go far. I didn't have to. Just 2 miles down the road sat a rundown roadside motel with flickering signage and rooms that smelled like bleach and distant arguments. It was perfect. Nobody would find me there. Least of all her. I checked in using a fake last name, not because I needed to, but because something inside me liked the feeling of not being me for a while. The guy at the desk didn't ask questions. I liked him for that. That first night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the creaky mattress, staring at the plastic curtains and trying to unspool the past few months of my life like a tangled extension cord. I kept looking for a moment when I should have known, when the air between us had started to rot. But nothing stood out. No huge argument. No red flag blow-up. It had been quiet. Ordinary. That's what made it so terrifying. The betrayal hadn't come in a scream. It had arrived like a whisper in a crowded room. The next morning, my phone had 17 missed calls. 9 from Lana. 8 from her sister, Mel, and then 1 from an unknown number that left a voicemail. I almost deleted it without listening, but something made me hit play. It was him, the guy from the lounge. The man with the gray blazer and the very specific hand placement. Hey, this is Noah. I got your number from Lana's phone. I just want to say I didn't know she was married. She told me she was separated. I swear, man, I'm not trying to cause drama, but maybe you should know that she told me some things about you, and they didn't add up. If you want to talk, here's my number. I listened to it twice. Then I just sat there. She had told him things about me? What kind of stories does a woman have to invent in order to justify cheating? Was I abusive in her version? Distant? Controlling? Did she paint herself as the brave survivor finally breaking free from the chains of a loveless marriage? I didn't call him back. Not yet. But I saved the voicemail. I knew I'd need it later. Instead, I called someone else. My friend Wes, someone I hadn't talked to in nearly a year because I'd been too busy being married. He picked up on the second ring, and before I could say anything, he blurted, "Clay? You alive?" I laughed, but it came out broken. Barely. I didn't tell him everything. Just the broad strokes. He offered his guest room without hesitation. Said it was quiet, had its own bathroom, and came with a dog who hated everyone equally. I packed what little I had and left the motel. At Wes's place, something shifted. I started seeing my marriage as an object, like a cracked painting behind glass. It wasn't just emotion anymore. It was observation. I could finally study the outlines, the patterns. How long Lana had been disengaging. How she strategically distanced herself from my friends. How she made subtle jokes about my routines that I'd always laughed off but now felt more like social sabotage. She'd been rewriting me in front of people for months. I just hadn't noticed. Then, for days after I left, she showed up. At Wes's house. Wes was at work. I was alone, reading a book I wasn't actually absorbing, when the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole, and my stomach dropped. There she was. Red eyes, messy bun, clutching a folder against her chest like it was a life jacket. I opened the door, just a crack. She looked up, hopeful. "Please. I just want to talk. I'm not here to yell." I hesitated, then opened it wider. 10 minutes. She stepped inside, scanning the room like it would reveal something about my state of mind. I didn't offer her a seat. She sat anyway. "I've been to the house. Twice," she said. "I thought you might be there." "I know," I replied. "I changed the locks." That rattled her. She looked down at the folder and opened it slowly. "These are papers," she said. I talked to a lawyer. I didn't want it to go this way, but I know it has to. But before you do anything, I need to tell you something." I didn't speak. She swallowed. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just a mistake. It was planned. It was selfish. And I own that. But what I didn't expect was for you to leave first. Her voice cracked at the end of the sentence, as if the part that truly hurt her was losing control of the ending. "I had everything set up," she whispered. "I was going to leave when you went to Portland. I had a story ready. I thought you'd just move on." I almost laughed. "You thought I'd move on from 15 years like it was a canceled flight?" She looked like she wanted to shrink into the couch. "I don't know who I am without you, Clay," she finally said. "That's the problem," I said. "You should have figured that out before you turned me into a villain in someone else's fantasy." She started crying then. Quietly. Not the ugly, messy sobs I half expected, but the fragile kind, the kind that still hopes pity might buy forgiveness. I didn't move. I didn't comfort her. After a long silence, I finally asked, "Do you want me to read those papers now or later?" She looked up. "Later. I was hoping you'd still let me explain. You've been explaining things to other people for months. I'm sure they're tired of the same speech." And then, without another word, she stood and walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned to say one final thing. "I don't think I'll ever stop loving you." I didn't answer. But the moment she left, I reached for my phone and did the one thing I never thought I would. I called Noah. The call rang 4 times before it picked up. There was a pause and then a cautious hello. I swallowed the dryness in my throat and tried to keep my voice steady. This is Clay. From the hotel. Another pause. Longer this time. Yeah, he said quietly. I figured you might call. I didn't answer right away. I didn't even know what I wanted from him. An apology? An explanation? A play-by-play of how it all started? There was no good version of this. No clean end. But I needed the truth, not from Lana, not wrapped in her crying voice and half-lies, but from the one person she didn't expect me to talk to. She told you we were separated? I asked. Yeah. Said it had been months. Said it was complicated and messy, and you were emotionally controlling. He sighed. I didn't pry. I didn't want to. I liked her. I still do, I guess. But I wouldn't have touched her if I knew she was married. I'm not that guy. I rubbed my face, trying to keep the nausea down. What else did she say about me? Noah hesitated. Look, I don't know if it's helpful. I'm not calling to feel better, I said. Just say it. There was a moment of silence, then a slow exhale on his end. She said you used to go through her phone, that you didn't trust her, that you were passive-aggressive and always made her feel like she owed you something. Said you made her feel small, that you had no ambition, that you were stuck. Each sentence hit like a quiet slap. I took them, one by one, as if bracing for a wave that never stopped coming. She said I made her feel alive, he finished. Like she was waking up again after being asleep for years. The silence between us sat like wet concrete. And did you believe that? I finally asked. He sighed. I wanted to. I couldn't even be mad at him. Not fully. I didn't like him. I still don't. But he was just another part of her fiction. A role she cast to help her forget who I was. Or worse, to help herself forget who she had become. I need to ask you something, I said. Did she ever talk about leaving the country? Yeah, he answered without hesitation. Lisbon. She talked about it a lot. Said she wanted a full reset. Said she wanted to start over with someone who understood her. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. And you were that someone? I guess that was the plan. But after that night at the hotel, I didn't hear from her again. She blocked me. Ghosted me like I never existed. My eyebrows lifted. Seriously. She texted once, 2 days later. Just one line. Please forget me. That's it. Then nothing. I sat back, the gears in my brain turning slower than I liked. She'd cut him off the moment she realized I wasn't going to collapse. The second I stood up instead of begging, she panicked. Not because she missed him. Not because she regretted it. But because the story, the neat little narrative she had built with him, had crumbled. And once the fantasy broke, she did what she always did. Disappear. She wanted to vanish clean. I muttered. What? Nothing. Thanks for being honest, I said, and before he could say more, I ended the call. I stared at the wall for a long time after that. Wes's dog, a grumpy mutt named Buttons, hopped up beside me and dropped her head in my lap. I scratched behind her ears without thinking. All this time, I had assumed Lana was playing some kind of long game. That she was 2 steps ahead, pulling every string with perfect precision. But now I saw the truth, she wasn't a mastermind. She was a coward with a compass that only pointed toward comfort. The second things got hard, she lied. When she got caught, she hid. And when her fantasy started to bleed, she erased it. I got up, grabbed the divorce folder from the table, and took it out back. There was a fire pit behind Wes's place, just a small one, half-rusted and lopsided. I lit a match, held it to the edge of the folder, and watched it burn. The papers curled like dry leaves. The ink bled. The words vanished. Not because I was staying, but because I was going to write my own ending. And I didn't need her version to do it. Later that night, I opened my laptop. I didn't message Lana. I didn't send a dramatic final text. I wrote something else. An email. To her family. Her friends. Her coworkers. Every single person she had been controlling the narrative with. And I kept it simple. Subject, the truth about Lana. In the body, I added the folder link. No commentary. No attack. No accusations. Just facts. Let them see what she never wanted anyone to see. Let them decide. And once I clicked send, I sat back and finally, exhaled. The next morning started with silence, which was unusual. No phone buzzing. No emails. No missed calls. Just a stillness so unnatural it made my stomach tighten. I sat at Wes's kitchen table sipping weak coffee, staring at the screen of my phone like it might suddenly light up and explode. But it didn't. Not at first. Then, At 9:47 a.m., it began. First came the text from Mel, Lana's sister. Just 2 words. Is it true? No punctuation. Just raw disbelief wrapped in curiosity. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She had the folder. She saw everything. After that, the ripple widened. 2 more texts from people I barely knew. A coworker of Lana's I'd met once at a holiday party, and a woman who used to do yoga with her on Sunday mornings. Both messages were carbon copies of the same shock. I can't believe she did this. You didn't deserve this. I'm so sorry, Clay. I wasn't prepared for the validation. I expected pushback. Accusations. The usual dance of there are 2 sides. But no one defended her. Not one person. That told me everything. Wes came into the kitchen half-dressed and rubbing his eyes. You're famous, he muttered. Lana's name is being dropped in 3 different group chats I didn't even know I was in. I glanced up. What are they saying? That she lied. That she spun this story about you being the clingy husband who couldn't let go. Apparently, she even told people you used to track her location without permission. I shook my head slowly. I never once did that. She voluntarily shared it for emergencies. Well, congratulations, Wes said dryly. The truth's out now. But it wasn't over. Not yet. At 1:23 p.m., Lana finally broke her silence. It wasn't a call. It wasn't a voice message. It was a single email titled, "You ruined everything." I clicked it open and read each line with a slow, deliberate calm. Her words bled with panic and rage. She called me cruel. Said I'd humiliated her. Said I had no idea what she'd been going through. That I'd exposed her deepest pain to people who couldn't understand. And the worst part? She still didn't admit she'd done anything wrong. Not once. She blamed me for not being a man and coming to her privately. She accused me of weaponizing the truth, as if honesty was a grenade I tossed just to watch the damage. And maybe it was. But what she didn't understand was this wasn't revenge. It wasn't some carefully plotted punishment. It was release. After months of being gaslit, minimized, and rewritten by her, I wanted to exist again. In people's minds. In the narrative. I was done being erased. I didn't reply, but I did forward her email to the same group I'd sent the truth folder to. No commentary. Just her own words. By the next morning, the phone was buzzing again. This time, it wasn't sympathy. It was confirmation. Her boss reached out, short, direct. We've received internal complaints. We'll be looking into this. Thank you for your clarity. Her cousin from Denver emailed. She stayed with me for 3 weeks last year and lied about why. I feel like an idiot. Her college roommate sent a single sentence. She always said she wanted to disappear. I didn't know she meant like this. One by one, the bricks of her story collapsed. Quietly, neatly, like dominoes. And I watched it happen not with satisfaction, but with a kind of solemn peace. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I needed the truth to breathe. I needed the people she manipulated to see clearly. I needed her to stop rewriting me. The final message came from Noah. A short text. Noah, she's blocking everyone. I think she's leaving town. I stared at it for a long time. Then opened my laptop. I didn't chase her. I didn't beg for closure. Instead, I wrote the last thing I'd ever sent her. A letter. Simple. Honest. Brutal in its clarity. Lana, I hope wherever you go, you find the version of yourself you kept promising was just around the corner. The woman who wanted to be seen, understood, and free. But I also hope you look back, just once, and understand what you destroyed to become her. You didn't lose me. You erased me. And I made sure the world saw what that looked like. Goodbye, Clay. I hit send. And then, for the first time in months, I turned off my phone and stepped outside. It was raining. Light but steady. Cleansing. And I let it fall on my face like it was allowed to. Like I was allowed to feel clean again. It took time. Not a week. Not a month. More like a slow unraveling of tightly wound threads. You don't just walk away from someone you built a life with and feel better the next day. There were mornings when I reached for a pillow that wasn't hers, only to remember why. Evenings when a song in the grocery store would knock the wind out of me. There was grief, but it was quieter than I expected, not loud sobs, just a dull ache behind my ribs, the kind that flares up when you least expect it. But somewhere in the spaces between all of that, I started breathing again. I stayed at Wes's for 2 more weeks. During that time, I helped him renovate the spare room, took his grumpy dog Buttons for long walks, and relearned what silence could feel like when it wasn't laced with tension. I finally bought new clothes that didn't remind me of dinner parties or holiday photos. I even deleted the folder, The Weekend I Didn't Matter, not out of denial, but because it had done its job. It had spoken for me when I didn't have the words. And now, I didn't need it anymore. Lana never replied to my final email. She vanished exactly the way she planned to, only without the narrative she thought she controlled. She quit her job quietly. Her social media accounts went dark. I heard rumors she moved out of state, maybe even out of the country. But none of it mattered anymore. Not really, because I had stopped following her story and started writing my own. One Saturday morning, Wes invited me to join a local book club he was part of. I almost said no. The idea of sitting in a circle with strangers and talking about feelings made my skin crawl. But I went, and that's where I met someone. Her name was Elise. She wore sneakers with floral laces and brought her own tea in a thermos with hand-painted birds. She didn't ask me what I did for work right away. She didn't fill silences with nervous chatter. She just listened. And when I made a comment about how one character reminded me of myself, too passive, too slow to act, she looked me straight in the eye and said, or maybe just careful in a world that rewards recklessness. We got coffee the following week. Then a walk. Then a second walk that turned into lunch and laughter and a conversation that went well past midnight. I didn't tell her about Lana right away. I wasn't ready. But when I finally did, weeks later, under a dim string of lights on a quiet porch, she didn't flinch. She didn't pity me. She just reached across the table, touched my hand gently, and said, "You deserved better. But I'm glad you're here now." And I was. Finally. Fully. Here. There are still days I look back. Days I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't shown up at that hotel. But then I remind myself, the version of me that sat in that lounge, waiting, scared, heart racing, ready to confront something soul-shattering, that man didn't vanish. He evolved. He stood up. He refused to be erased. And because of that, I got my life back. Better yet, I got myself back. So no, this isn't a story about betrayal. It's a story about awakening. A quiet one. A slow one. But real and whole and mine.